Hello YouTube artists, I'm Kelly Hernig and welcome to In the Studio. Today is my big reveal of my 2026 Studio palette. It has been a journey for sure. I have pulled out all of my palettes and organized them all, which is a big feat in itself. I have a lot of handmade watercolors, which surprised myself that I had that many. The palette ends up being 45 colors of the most beautiful, earthy, muted tones I have ever seen. I want you to imagine walking in the woods and discovering lichen and moss and bark, mushrooms, anything that is in the woods on the floor. It is just really beautiful. I shocked myself with picking so many earthy oranges, like a terracotta, burnt sienna kind of color. And you know I have a lot of greens because of my love of leaves, right? But it came together really, really beautifully. I went through all of my paints. They are all organized, by the way, because I had to organize them in order to find just the right colors. Every palette was on my desk at one time or another, and I was just swatching and really enjoying that process of seeing what I have. When was the last time you opened every one of your paint boxes and swatched colors, right? Well, that's what I got to experience, and it was really, really fun. I really enjoyed it. And there's a lot of colors that I love that just did not fit within this palette, because I was looking for something so muted and earth-toned and just something that really spoke to my heart. I mean, that's the kind of palette that I wanted. I want whenever I go to use this palette, it speaks to me before I even start. And that's exactly what I ended up with. I'm going to take you through my swatch sheets, how I started picking colors, some of the ones, my first selections, how they've turned out, and if I was happy with them or if I had to redo a couple. Not saying that I did, but maybe. And then the final reveal of my palette of 45 colors. I can't wait to share it with you. So let me turn this camera around and let's get started. As you can see, I have palettes upon palettes upon palettes of paints, and I really, really enjoy that. Remember, this is my job, so creating and exploring palettes is something that I usually share here on YouTube. I also just really love experimenting with handmade colors. So as I was going through, I was organizing, I was seeing if I had doubles, I was doing all kinds of different things. And it was a pleasure getting to know my palettes again, what I had, what I forgot that I had. I mean, that is really something. You need to pull out all of your palettes and just remind yourself of the beauty that is within each one. So as I was going through these, I was looking for more earthy tones. I wanted the earthy, the mutedness of those tones. So once I've got them all out, I started swatching. And here's the fun part. The colors are amazing. You can see I've got them kind of broken down by brands on my color swatch sheets because that's how I looked for them once I was done. You know, every little palette had 1 or 2, sometimes 3 brands in it. It just depended on how many individual colors I had of the brands. This here is my first sheet, and you can see the swatches here are bigger because I knew I didn't have that many when I first started. And as I go, the swatches get smaller and smaller because I'm trying to cram them on more sheets. So this here is like my ocean paper. I have Essee up here. I've got Addison and Sedgwick, and I really just enjoyed these colors. You can see that I have some that are metallic. See if you can see that. See them up there? So those are all metallic. I won't be using metallics. I don't really use them a lot. A lot of these came with a set. So they have been passed on to a friend who loves metallic work. This here is Arkaar Creations, Art to Basic, Hungry for Paint, Holbein, and then Winsor Newton. And I enjoyed seeing these colors a lot. This palette, or this swatching session right here, just got me really excited because yes, this is what I want my palette to feel like when it's finished. I want it like, especially these middle rows in here. I just really like those colors. So this is getting me excited to keep going and going. Then I have Isaro, American Journey, Schmincke, Daniel Smith, and Dusty Bee. You can see these are a little more brighter. There are a couple that I picked from here, but not many because I am looking for something very specific. Here I have more ocean paper, more Essee colors. I've got Kimbrandt, Dusty Bee, and Liquid Fay. A lot of these handmade colors are found on Etsy, so I will list all of the companies down below in case you are interested in seeing them. Again, this palette here, the Essee colors and these colors over here really are like what I'm looking for. So I'm getting excited. This is Rivervale. This is Artistic Ideals Studio, Jazper Sawdust. This is all my Daniel Smith, the ones that I was curating for. And then this palette down here is DaVinci. You can see a lot of these are really dark granulating colors. You know I like granulating colors, so this palette has quite a bit of them on there. And then this whole sheet is Deep Light. Remember, I'm an ambassador for Deep Light. There is a coupon code in the description box. So from here, what I did was I started going through and I wrote a note for myself on what I thought I would need in a palette. So by that, I wrote like yellows, and then I wrote yellows off of my swatch sheets that I thought I might want. Then I wrote oranges, reds, violets, blue, green, brown, grays, buff titaniums, because you know I've got to have some buffs. I've got flesh tones, I've got pinks. So that's kind of like what I did was I just gave myself a list to kind of start from, because when you have 6 sheets of colors to kind of go through, how I ended up doing this was like comparing yellows to yellows. Let's see if I have any other yellows. Here's a couple more. So then I was like, well, which yellow speaks to me the best? You know, I've been on a quest for the perfect raw sienna, and I still haven't found one, but I was able to find a light yellow, which is what I was looking for. I wanted a medium tone, and then I wanted more of like a brownish tone. Think of raw sienna with a little more brown. I actually went with this color, so that's my like dark yellow. That's called Mustard by Deep Light. So that's how I kind of broke down. Every time I was looking for a certain color, I kind of grouped them so that I could judge from this what I was really drawn to. Because for me, it is about keeping it earthy. I knew I didn't want a lot of real light tones. I wanted the light tones to be in like my buff titaniums, some really light colors, but I didn't want a lot of them. I wanted more middle value, if that makes sense. So like if you're looking at this, I would consider these two more the light tones. I would consider these for the middle tones, and then that's a dark tone for me in the yellows. So that's kind of how I judged each color. And what I ended up doing once I made my list here and I kind of got the colors that I wanted, wrote down the brands, because remember I have a lot of brands in here. And from there, I did my first swatch sheet. Now this is directly from this. So whatever colors I wrote, whatever brands I wrote, that's how I experimented. And you can see that there's quite a bit of colors on here. I'm going to actually turn this sideways so that you can see it better. And so you can see I've got yellows, I've got oranges, reds, violets, blues, grays, buff titaniums, more like pinks, flesh tone. I've got a whole row of greens over here and a whole row of browns and what I consider like darks. So my hematite violet genuine's in there, sepia's in there, I've got prickly pear in there. So I wanted those deep colors, but I wanted a lot of those to granulate. I like how they add that extra texture to my work. So when I was first looking at this, I'm like, this is really nice. I've got just 2 reds, which is more than enough. But when I was comparing the yellow or the oranges here to like my flesh tone colors, I realized I use a lot of these colors. I didn't think I did, which was kind of interesting. And so I've got a couple pinks that could maybe move up here. But I also looked and asked myself, okay, when was the last time that you used grays? usually I mix grays with like a lavender and a brown or some other colors, right? So I'm like, okay, the only one that I really want out of this row is my Captain's Gray. My Hematite Genuine here, Violet Genuine, needs to go over here with my dark colors. So that's how I was kind of processing. You can see all of my greens are fairly the same, especially from this lot here. So these 6 colors were pretty much the same. I needed to do something about that. So from this sheet, I did another sheet. And this gave me more colors to choose from, because now with my greens, I'm looking for a blue green. I'm looking for a yellow green. I'm looking for like kind of a neutral green, like think of a green gray. I also want to add a really kind of bright green. So my Coastal Fog here, this is what I mean by bright. I mean just a lighter value. And then as I started going, I was trying to put them in order that I would put them in a palette. And I had this much pretty much figured out. It was looking really nice. I was happy with the way the colors went. I think I had enough of the colors, but the reds here, I thought, well, maybe I need to add one more red, like a middle tone in there. So then I added swatches of just the reds that I have that I normally use. Okay, so those are like the deep scarlet, the Indian red, the Perylene maroon, alizarin gold. Those are the kind of color reds that I tend to go for. And then I was experimenting. I had violets up here, but this was the only red violet I had. So I needed a darker red violet. So I was looking at the bottom here of what kind of colors was I missing and how could I complete the palette really. And so reevaluating all of this from here, when I got them all on this sheet, I wanted to try out a couple more greens that I thought that these ones here were lacking. And then again, here's where the reds were, because there was a red that I didn't like. I actually put in Perylene maroon, but it was just too much the same of my deep scarlet, so I wanted to change that. So I was trying different reds in here, a little more earthy tones, so not real bright. And you can see my yellows up here, because I had one yellow that when I refilled it, it came out a darker tone, so I really had to experiment with these again. And what happened next was I decided to just put it all together, and I was happy with my choices, and this is what it looks like. So this is my muted studio palette. And when I got this all done, now this was all just from my swatches that I had narrowed down, and there were a couple that I was unhappy with. And this one was one of them. It was just too dull. I knew that I wanted it to be a little brighter. These 3 here were very much similar of these 2, and these 2 were very similar. So I needed to fix that. And then the red, this red in the middle here, I did not like. See how close these are? So I wanted this one to be a little more dirty. Like think of a little more something like that, where it's just not bright at all. So what I ended up doing was I painted myself little squares, and this is what happened. So this red replaces this red. Do you see the difference? Look how dusty that one is compared to how bright that is. So I've got that here. I've got my raw sienna. See the difference here? See how much brighter that one is than this one? It's kind of dirty here. So I've got that one going there. In this row, what I did was make 3 of them like that. Look how pretty. And then this one, I changed these 3 because they were very earthy and I wanted a little more yellow green. So this becomes this. And then this one here, this is my Tundra Green, which is a very much, it separates. I didn't like the way the swatch came out, so I just re-swatched that. So this is what my color palette looks like now. It looks so lovely. And here's a darker version. So this one I wanted to see with the water splashed and everything on there, but then the darker version, I wanted this to go inside of my palette. I want you to see how pretty that is. To me, this just makes my heart so happy. It makes me smile. I cannot wait to dive in. I've only painted one painting so far with it, but I also wanted to show you my palette that I got. So this is inside one of these tins. It's a black cat tin in yellow. I don't know if I can, let me move this and then I can flip it over. So you can see it's a black cat tin. What I did was mount an eraser up here so that when my palette is in there, it doesn't fall down. I wanted it to stay level for mixing. This is what my palette looks like. So I'll be painting this way, dipping my brush here and actually painting on my palette. This ceramic palette was made by a company called The Creator's Hands off of Essee. I actually sent her the size that I needed and she handmade it for me. And I was so grateful because I love the way that this looks like one set. It doesn't take up a lot of space. I mean, here's my hand. So you can see it doesn't take up a lot of desk space, which I really like. And I have a shelf in front of me where all my brushes sit. So I turn it like this and I push it aside and it's all put away. But I am so happy with this journey that really playing around with all of my paints, getting to know what I had again, which is a feat in itself. And I have to tell you, this is how obsessed I am, right? This palette of 45 colors, there are 16 different brands. I'm almost embarrassed to say that. There are several brands on here that just one color is in there, but it was the perfect color. So that's what I mean by I have so many palettes of watercolors. And because of what I just went through, I am not buying any more watercolors this year, for sure. I'm on a no buy for sketchbooks and a no buy for watercolors because I just need to use up what I already have. And that will be a lifetime, believe me. I wanted to say too, thank you for watching the beginnings and giving me so much feedback and then seeing how it turned out. I hope it makes you look in your studio and look at the paints you're using. Does it feel like you, or is it just a store-bought palette that someone else created for you? I know the beauty that I'm going to have painting with this and really experimenting. Every single color is personal to me. And can we always say that about a palette? Absolutely not. But these were culled down and swatched and gone over and over and over until I narrowed it down to the colors that I really wanted. And this is going to be a magical year. How can it not be? I have my perfect palette. Now, as I play with it, I will make sure that there's nothing on there that maybe seems repetitive or maybe it doesn't fit. You know, maybe in my greens here, maybe I need to substitute maybe a darker green or something like that. But I won't know that until I paint with it for at least a month. I'm going to try it for a month the way it is, make sure that the colors fit me the way that I think that they do. If you were inspired by this palette journey, please give me a like or a comment. I would love to know your thoughts. And if it's making you look at your palette a little different. If you haven't subscribed, please click the button. And as always, thanks so much for watching.